Thank you, Bill. I am really excited to be here this evening because in the last year, I've learned a lot about the community. Normally, when I would work on a comprehensive plan project, there would be one outreach engagement activity in the community, one summer festival. And when I started here, I thought, oh my gosh, there's the block party next week. We need to make use of that. And I discovered that we have a lot of community events. That's when first started discovering how great Mount Prospect is. And the more I learned about it, the more excited I was to work on this project. I'm going to give you a brief overview of our planning process for the comprehensive plan update. I will start with a brief history about comprehensive planning in Mount Prospect. This evening, we will go over, our presentation will be divided into three parts, or rather the first part will be a presentation, and then the next two parts will be a workshop setting. The second one is a group engagement session where we get to hear from you. And the third one is you get to be a little more creative and draw and squiggle on a map, to put it lightly. Comprehensive planning in Mount Prospect. Our first plan was back in 1965. And since then, we've had a number of plan updates, plan revisions. There were 3 in 1980, 3 in 1990. And our last comprehensive plan update was in 2007. The mayor just told me that the 2007 plan was one of her projects. So she's excited to learn about what we are doing differently this year. And we also are celebrating 100 years. So we have a lot to look back at from where we've come and how we've changed, and how comprehensive planning has changed over the years as well. We decided to call our plan Envision Mount Prospect, Planning Our Future Together, because it's always nice to have a brand for a project. It makes it easier to promote it in different ways. Comprehensive planning has changed. Back in the day, it used to be more of land use plans and transportation plans, and then a public hearing at the end of the process. But today, we want to hear from the community at the onset, and we want to have community engagement right through the whole process so that the feedback from the community is incorporated into the plan. And that is what we did. Next, I go into an overview of our planning process so far. I will talk about some of the community engagement efforts that we've done to date, a brief overview of the existing conditions analysis, and the policy development and next steps. So we started off by getting together a steering committee to sort of spearhead this project. They have been a wonderful inspiration for me. They're made up of residents, business owners, key stakeholders in the community. We have 4 committee members present with us today, and they'll be at the different tables. And they've given us input throughout the project, helped guide some of the course that the plan took, highlighted some of the key issues that were important to them and to the community. So they've really been very critical to the development of this plan. And I appreciate their time towards the plan because it's all been a volunteer effort. We've also had key staff that we engaged with from the different departments because we needed to learn about what we've done over the years, the last 10 years, what we've accomplished, and what are the future needs for each department to include in the comprehensive plan. So thank you also to the different staff members who've answered all my questions and emails and requests for data over the last year. I also worked with the Chamber of Commerce and the Downtown Merchants Association to hear from our business community about how our community has changed over the years, some of the things that they've learned, some of the things that they look forward to seeing improving in the community. And in order to have better engagement, we try to be a little tech savvy. So we put together a website where residents could go to get basic information about the plan, about what the process is about, what the plan's about, upcoming events, where they could have access to the survey that we put together for the project, and an ability for people to share their vision for the community. This website was also promoted through the village website. as well as in newsletters that went out from the village and email blasts, as well as there was also a write-up in the Herald for one of the open houses that we had. Every comprehensive plan includes a community survey because we need to hear from the community about very specific issues with respect to housing, transportation, service needs in the community. Usually, we also want to know very specific responses with respect to services. But the village this year, last year, 2016, also put together a village-wide survey. So we had that survey to look at for all the services in the community. So our community survey really focused on housing, transportation, and other service needs, as well as a look at what places in the community people like. So when we look at third places in the community to understand, to get a sort of a sense of place of what people like in the community. Our survey was pretty well received, I'll say. We had the survey available in both English and Spanish. It was available online, as well as we handed out printed copies at different locations in the community. We received 453 responses to date, which is a 95% level of confidence for the survey for the community, which is pretty good. The project website and the survey was also promoted at different events in the community. We started when I started working here, so the farmers market, the fall festival, Bluesmobile, cruise night. We had a booth set up, a pop-up workshop, a pop-up booth really, just to get the buzz going and get people to know about Envision Mount Prospect so that they could get feedback or take the survey when they got it in the newsletter. We also had 4 open houses. We had our first open house at the library, 2 at schools, 1 on the north side of the community, 1 on the south side of the community, and 1 at the Community Connection Center. We had mapping exercises where residents could put little red and green sticky dots about issues in the community and opportunities, so areas of improvement. We had them fill out the survey, as well as write on Post-its any improvements that they wanted to see really in the community that the comprehensive plan could help address. And we got a lot of great feedback. Some of the drawings that you see over there near the entrance were done by the kids because we asked them, it was an evening meeting, and how do you get parents out in the evening for a 7 o'clock meeting? You provide foods and have activities for kids. So we got a good response from some of the families as well. And the kids drew what they want to see in Mount Prospect, which is always exciting. I have that outside my office as inspiration, and it's great. So you see things like parks, some high-rises, swimming pools, lots of swimming pools, dog parks, and it's always fun to hear what the kids have to say about their community. And then we also had a visioning workshop to engage staff as well as the steering committee on to create a vision for the community and the vision statement, really. We did a SWOT analysis, which is the identification of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in the community. And we had each of the groups develop, or rather craft, model language for the vision statement that helped inform our vision statement that we put together at the end. Now, besides all the community engagement, a comprehensive plan is not based on just what the community says. We also took a very close look at data analysis. We looked at trends, looked at how the community has changed over the last 10 years and longer. We looked at projections for the future. We looked at surrounding communities plans, CMAP, who's our regional planning agency, their vision for transportation, regional planning, green infrastructure, Cook County's transportation plan, as well as we had interviews with all the departments to find out what some of their goals were for the future. And of course, the village's strategic plan, which was where we sort of started with this plan. And so we looked at a lot of existing conditions and summarized them into 4 chapters that will be part of the appendix at the end of this process. And these, all the data analysis and the engagement help us put together key ideas for what we want our community to be in the future. So we came up with this vision statement. This looks at the village's strategic plan, the community visioning and input, as well as best practices for comprehensive plans. And I think it's a great statement because it includes all of these different efforts that have been centered around making Mount Prospect a great place to live and work. So the vision statement for the comprehensive plan is Mount Prospect will be an exemplary, livable, resilient, and socially vibrant community in the region that is timeless yet contemporary. So it may last a 100 years, right? I think it might. It has the potential too, because it's timeless. And then in order to fulfill this vision statement, based on all the engagement and the data analysis, we grouped together the key ideas into 6 key topics. Each of the topics, we came up with a guiding principle to sort of guide the focus of that topic area and develop different goals, policies, and strategies to help achieve the vision for the community. The 6 topic areas are as follows. The first one is a livable built environment. I'll be going into each of these next very briefly. Mobility, which is transportation. Community, which talks about housing, services, all the needs of the community, really. Community health and safety, resilience, and economic vitality. The livable built environment. Now, if you have had a chance to go through this document, you will realize, well, did we talk about buildings and land use in the previous chapter, or did we already talk about housing? The comprehensive plan is comprehensive. You will see key topics that come through in all the different chapters. They're addressed slightly differently. All of them focus on safety, on pedestrian safety, improving the quality of life. All of them focus on improving accessibility for everybody, as well as making sure that the community is a healthy place to live with focus on active transportation. And so let me start with the built environment. So the built environment talks about how well we are located in the region. It talks about the mix of uses that we can provide for the future to accommodate a changing population, improvements that we can make for better access for everybody in the community, and making sure that Mount Prospect is really a vibrant place to not just visit or live in, but also to work in. The chapter on mobility talks about improving access, all types of access for people of all abilities and income, making sure that we are catering to the needs of our changing population. The population of Mount Prospect is aging, as is most of the population, as is the population in the surrounding communities. And the services that we provide for transportation needs to account for that. So making sure that people can still move about in the community. We have many gaps that were analyzed as part of our existing conditions, and this chapter helps address some of those gaps as well. Gaps like completing the first mile and last mile to use public transit, like the metro station. So making sure that it's safe to take an Uber and have somebody dropped off on the south side of the tracks where there isn't much space for it right now because we just have the drop-off on the north side of the tracks. The comprehensive plan looks at many different types of mobility land use issues. The third chapter looks at the community's needs, really. And we're looking at a variety of different needs over here, from housing, human services, social services, as well as making sure that everybody in the community has access to services, housing, and resources in the community. That means that people are able to walk, whether it's a senior, it's a child, or it's a working adult. They should be able to access parks and recreational facilities in their neighborhood easily, and as well as preserving historic resources in the community. And I always like to have this conversation of creating place. Creating place is very, very important because, and what does this mean really? You can build a public plaza and have this beautiful environment, but if there's no way to get people to it or activities, events that draw people to it, it's a waste of space. So part of the comprehensive plan also looks at making sure that it's programmed to activate the community. So we have a lot of events right now. Many of them are in the downtown area. Are there any other areas in the community where we need to have more placemaking? Are there any other ways that we can engage the community? Now, with the Centennial, we've had some great projects. I mean, one of my favorite is the painting of the fire hydrants. It really gets the community invested. Are there any other such ways that we can get the community members invested in the community so that they keep coming back and are really invested in the community for the next 100 years? Chapter 4 looks at health and safety. Now, comprehensive plans today have a big focus on community health. What does this mean? Not just access to a hospital, but making sure that people have more active lives. They have access to recreation. They have the ability to, or rather the means to have an active lifestyle. So this chapter touches on that. It also touches on some of the services with respect to police and fire and safety and welfare for the community. In the recent past, we've annexed a lot of properties in the community, and we have new service needs for our community. As well as our population is aging. So what does that mean to the types of services we need to provide? Mental health today is pretty big on the list of planners because we don't really know how to address that. Having people invested and involved in the community is one way to have people engaged, but what are some of the services required for mental health? And that's all part of the comprehensive planning process. Maybe not as important as land use and transportation needs because those are more department specific, but it's definitely included as part of the comprehensive plan. Chapter 5 looks at resiliency, and this is with respect to the responsible use and protection of our environment. We have a few creeks and many open spaces in our community. We have a wealth of trees. So what are we doing and how can we continue to preserve the wonderful trees that we have in the community? How can we further connect them to the region? Our regional planning agency has a green infrastructure plan for the region. How do we tap into that and provide access to not just people for trails, but wildlife? I used to take the Metro into work, and one day at the Clybourne station in Chicago, I saw a coyote. Guess what the coyote uses to move around from the suburbs to the city? He takes the Metro train station because it's a green corridor for him, to connect him to the community. There are no roads that pass over cut off the Metro tracks as such, or maybe they do in a way that he was able to cross over. So how do we provide these corridors for not just wildlife, but butterflies and bees in the community for them to migrate and move around without getting extinct? Chapter 6 looks at, we're a business-friendly community, so economic vitality. What can we do and continue to do to support innovation and collaboration in the community? We already are doing a lot with respect to economic development, and it was so great to hear from everybody in the community about what we've done so far and the different, MPEI, different programs that we have, and the chamber as well, and how well we're all working together to make sure that our business environment is thriving. But what are some of the changes that we need to keep in mind for the future? So that is our project in a nutshell. Our next step is, well, we're here today. And we've done a lot of engagement over the last year, and we've heard from the community, and now is an opportunity for us to hear from you. So the next two parts for this evening, we would like to hear from you about, firstly, each of the each of the 6 chapters, about your thoughts on some of the ideas we think we should include, if anything is missing or if any areas need a bigger focus. If there is anything that you've heard from your neighbors or friends that is important to the community and not yet addressed. If there are big changes that you know of with respect to driverless cars that we haven't heard of as yet, we would love to hear that tonight. And it will be your chance really to weigh in. So I welcome you for the next hour. We're gonna set up slightly differently. We'll have six tables, and we'll invite one board member to join each table, and the Planning and Zoning Commission members as well to join a table. We already have, I think, one steering committee member at each table for now. If staff from the different departments can spread out so that we have at least one person at each table from the different departments, that would be great. And that would be our next exercise. I will just go over briefly what we will be doing in this exercise. 6 of us, I'm going to call everybody to the front here. So we'll have Bill, Consuelo, Janet, Jason, Jeff Wolbecker, and myself. We will be facilitating at each of the 6 tables. Each of us will have one topic and a flip chart. And for the first 10 minutes, we'll be at one table. And you get to engage with us and let us know your thoughts and ideas for that chapter that each of us is facilitating. At the 9-minute mark, Carol, who's our wonderful intern with us for the summer, she will ring a bell, and that would be the 1-minute timer for us to wrap up our last thoughts. And then at the 10-minute mark, she'll ring a bell again, and that's when we move to the next table. So you get to sit at the same table, and we will visit you and talk about the 6 chapters for 10 minutes each. After that, we will all present back to the group about some of the new ideas that we've heard from you, and that will be our first workshop. I will briefly go over the second workshop in case we don't have time to go through it. That will be a mapping exercise called the Big Ideas Workshop, where you actually get to take some of your big ideas and put it down on a map. I'll go into the details of this when we get to it, but just wanted to give you a heads up of what's coming. All right, so if each of the village board members, I think first we should ask if there's any questions other than, if there's anything chapter specific, we look forward to hearing from you and discussing it in detail in this breakout session. But if there are any questions from the board members, the public, or the Planning and Zoning Commission, yes.
So no matter which table we sit at, we still get to discuss all 6 topics?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you guys will make sure our tables are appropriately balanced?
Right.
Yes.
Yes. So before we do that, let me just make an observation. I was very heavily involved in the 2007 Comprehensive Plan as chair of the P&Z, and Trustee Rogers was also part of that effort. And you're right, it was much more technically focused on land use and that type of a thing. And I think the way comprehensive planning is done today is very much in sync with our strategic planning effort, and it's really looking holistically at the community along several different dimensions. And I think we're capturing today's sentiment and today's concerns of the community. I know at our Coffee with Council meeting on Saturday, some conversation came up, and we couldn't point to where's this policy, where's that statement, and you read the comprehensive plan and you see that the framework is there to more fully develop, I'm thinking here about environmental and sustainability type policies within the village. So this has really captured, I think, today's sense of the community. It's different from what we had, but it tells a wonderful story, and that's the important part here, is to be able to read this and make sense out of it. It's not just a bunch of statistics and maps, but it really tells the story and builds on our strategic plan. So congratulations for that effort, and I think we're all looking forward to participating today.
Thank you, Mayor. And I also want to conclude, well, before concluding, I didn't let you know what our next steps are. So after this workshop, we will be putting together the future land use plan and the implementation plan, which is how we actually get this document executed. And we will be working closely with the different village departments to make sure that it's actually achievable. It will be project-specific. It'll be prioritized in a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year timeline to get the projects done. And we'll be also providing ways to track our progress to make sure that we are actually implementing the plan. All right. Thank you very much. And I
Do you have
invite-
anything at this point in time? Okay, I think we're ready.